Do want to welcome in House Minority Leader Patricia Morgan to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Thank you for coming in today,
Hi,
Patricia.
how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well.
Had to brave some tough roads coming in today?
Yes, actually really bad accident, but I'm tired of shoveling snow at this point.
And how'd you find the roads in your neck of the woods?
You know, the state highways are fine, the side roads are bad. Here in Providence, they're awful.
Yeah, so we certainly got a lot of snow here, and I appreciate your coming in today. And, you know, big news today. The governor did say that she is going to, as we knew all along, petition the courts for the grand jury documents, but direct the state police to release the interview notes, which we have called on all along, but officially made that pronouncement today. And we're going to be following that closely. And you've been calling for it all along as well.
All along, for years now, for years. Yeah, it's a good first step, but the Attorney General needs to let go of everything. Mm-hmm. We need to see all of it.
So we're going to be following that closely. Here within the week, we had former Assistant Attorney General Tom Dickinson come in, and I just wanted to see if we have an update with that. And he was involved with us with the lawsuit to get those records. So okay. We'll see when we get them, and obviously going to be reaching out because I think folks want to know obviously what happened, but we just don't know what to expect, do we?
We have no idea what to expect, but the people of Rhode Island deserve to get those notes, to get all of the answers. It's their money that was squandered.
Yes.
And I think, you know, I heard the Attorney General say, well, this will have a chilling effect in the future. I hope so. I hope so. Right? We want them to be chilled.
Yes.
It may not be criminal, but we don't want anybody doing this to Rhode Island again.
Yes. Now, let's talk about, economic strategy. Obviously, the Commerce Corporation has been making a lot of large-scale investments to bring companies in. You're the House Minority Leader. What's your reaction to how the Commerce Corporation's strategy has been? And I know you've been outspoken on it, but maybe articulate for viewers, what you think the best strategy is for economic development in the state and what it is that they've been doing.
All right, so they're giving, it's corporate welfare. They call them grants and tax credits and all different kinds of packages out there to specific companies. So they find a company they like and they say, hey, you want some money, and they give them a pile of money. I think we should be working on what's wrong with our economy first, right? Mm-hmm. Think about it as it being a foundation. Our energy costs are too high. Let's lower the cost of electricity, right? We have so much over-regulation. Let's start every regulation has a cost associated with it, and that cost falls on businesses and small businesses a lot. So if you get rid of those regulations, that allows them to grow. We have so many small businesses. Let's help all of them. Let's not help just the big ones that have the marquee names. Let's help all the little businesses out there. Imagine there are thousands of them. If every one of them could hire 3, 4, 5 employees, we'd have a lot of people at work.
And is that what you hear from your constituents? What are the concerns that you hear most from your particular constituents?
You know, the concerns they have is that the cost of living here in Rhode Island is just too high and they're not keeping up with it. That's what they're hearing. And let's face it, again, let's go back to the overregulation, right? And some of the other things, the high. Here in Providence, highest commercial property, third highest in the country for commercial property. Companies have to pass that on somehow. They can't just keep cutting and cutting and cutting. They have to be competitive. But they will pass many of those costs along. That raises everybody's cost of living here in Rhode Island. Yes. We pay higher property taxes. We pay higher costs for everything that we buy. We have got to start working on the foundation of our economy, right? If we can repair that, then Rhode Island can be prosperous again. I mean, remember, we used to be the powerhouse, right? The cotton mills. We had in West Warwick the largest cotton mill in the world. Wow. We had a thriving jewelry industry, and now we don't have any We don't have anything to brag about.
And one of the things, you just sent a letter to President Trump about infrastructure,
Yes.
pipeline. Talk to us about that issue and why you wrote him specifically that letter for that purpose, and explain to viewers about that letter.
It occurs to me that most of our elected officials are kind of slapping the president. He is our president. Whether you like it or not, he's our president. And we should have a good working relationship with him. And one thing the federal government can really help us on is infrastructure, right? In fact, President Bush is really in favor of doing something with our infrastructure, really putting money and investment into it. At the same time, it occurred to me, we have the 5th highest electric rate in the country, 5th highest. That hurts us in our homes, right? Residential customers. It hurts businesses even more because they are even larger users of electricity. So we have this stalled pipeline coming through New York, and I was thinking that putting those two things together, maybe he could help us. Because a couple of years ago, we had, a 24% increase in our electric rates. And the reason that came down from electric grid was that we simply don't have enough supply of natural gas here. So let's get that pipeline built. It would be right along the existing pipeline. And let's get more gas in here so that we don't see any more increases to our electric rates.
Talk to me about the Invenergy proposal in Barville. Obviously very contentious right now, going through the process of dealing with anything from water to regulations. What's your thoughts? And there's a lot of opposition. I mean, from a kind of a 10,000-foot level, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't know that that's the right place to put an electric plant. I have to rely on some of the people I know there. David Place is, as a councilman, he's closer to the issue. He's against it. Part of it is the water. Part of it is the quality of life, what it will do to their tax base. Woonsocket said, we'll take it, right? Maybe there's some industrial areas here in Providence that will take it. Maybe that spot's not the best spot for it.
Yeah, well, as you said, we're going to see a lot moving forward about that.
Probably should be in an industrial area.
It's a very rural,
yeah,
very rural area that's been seeing a lot of opposition to it. The governor's been very supportive.
They don't have a water supply.
Yes, and as we saw the issue with Johnston, with the selling of the water to Johnston, what's your thought on that? I mean, should the Providence Water Supply Board, and they've said previously that they can't do what happens once the water goes to the end user, but the water ends up in Johnston, and then they can turn around and sell it. What's your thought about that?
It seems like it's too convoluted. It just seems like they're trying to force an electric plant in a place where it shouldn't naturally be. Do we need more electricity? Yes, but maybe not there.
And thoughts on deep water wind?
Well, okay. So now
asking you all things energy right now.
That's right, energy. So deep water wind was, proposed. It was going to start a new industry here in Rhode Island. Well, it hasn't, right? We're bringing in most of the parts from other parts of the United States, other states. But what it did do is it guaranteed that the ratepayers will pay all the extra costs for deep water wind, and it's expensive. It will add $500 million to our electric rates. Well, listen, I have a lot of folks in my district, and I don't know how much more they can afford on their electric rates. Quite frankly, I mean, think about somebody on Social Security. They're making $15,000 a year, right? And everybody will say, well, it's only $15 more a month. $15 more a month is huge to them.
Yeah,
it is huge, right? In addition to the cost of food going up, heating going up, right? Their medicine going up. At some point, they break. And things like deep water wind is just another rock on top of their backs. We've got it now. There's no turning back from it. But we need to do things to lower that burden, not make it worse. And again, it's hard on my widow, right? It's hard on my widow on Social Security. It's hard on all families. It's particularly hard on businesses. And if we don't start doing something to help businesses, they can't grow and they can't give people jobs.
So let's maybe tack now to national politics. We did talk about sending the letter to President Trump. He's been in office now several weeks. What would you say he has done well so far, and what do you have concerns about?
Well, I think he has to ratchet down some of I mean, it just is so active right now that you really can't keep up with him, and it seems chaotic. What has he done well? I think he really put in a great Supreme Court nominee. Let's remember that what's it called, Judge Gorsuch is replacing a conservative justice already. So it's not going to be a big change on the Supreme Court. It kind of leaves it at status quo. But this man, what I've read about him, he seems to be incredibly well qualified. He's got an incredible resume, and I think he'll be really good there. We need really smart people on that court, right? You know, cutting regulations on U.S. businesses, that's huge too. Again, here in Rhode Island, at the national level as well, every regulation adds cost, adds burden. Now, we need some regulations just for health and safety, but we need to make sure that they always add value and they're not just a burden.
And talk about regulation. I just had on Pat Ford, the chair of the Libertarian Party, and we were talking about the tax and regulation of marijuana. Now, they've reintroduced a proposal again this year for that. 2017, what are your thoughts on this?
I just don't think I don't think we're ready. I don't think it's ripe yet. If you pay attention to what's going on in Colorado, that seems to be the one where most of the data collection is happening. Yeah, they're collecting a lot of money, but 80% of it is going to prevention and treatment. There are more, DUIs because you can't tell whether somebody's high or not, right? You just can't tell. There's no test for it. The police are absolutely saying, please don't do that. It's making their lives much more difficult. There are a lot more premature births, which means low-weight babies. We don't know what that means for those children's lives. There's too many questions about whether it's good policy or not. And I know that those who are in favor of it are saying, well, look at all the money you're getting. But we shouldn't be looking at the money right now. I already told you 80% is going to go to treatment and prevention. We need to make sure that whatever we do, it's good for Rhode Islanders, good for our kids, good for our adults. That it makes good policy that makes our state better and not just more difficult.
And in terms of being House Minority Leader and your agenda for the coming year, what would you say your top 3 goals are for this legislative session?
Well, one is working on a package of municipal tools. All right, so we know that we want, and quite frankly, good for the speaker. He wants to eliminate the car tax. It's something that we had proposed before, and he saw it and he liked it.
Do you say that that's part of the tool package?
No.
No, it's a different package.
This is the issue. If you only find the money in the state budget, well, the next time we have a bad market, right, a recession, there comes the car tax back.
Yep.
What we have to do is not just take it from the state taxpayer or the municipal taxpayer. We have to give municipalities tools so that they don't always have to be increasing their taxes, right? They're constantly looking for more and more and more ways to tax, right? And that's where the car tax comes from. So by giving them tools that will help them control their spending, we can eliminate.
So what type of tools? What are we talking about, a real tangible, like what are we talking about here?
Disability pension reform.
Okay.
We know it's broken. How many more, media stories do we have to, it's broken. And when somebody takes a disability pension who doesn't really deserve it, they are taking money out of the pension system of all these municipalities. We know there's 16 of them that are in critical shape.
Yes.
Well, if you take money out of the pension system, the taxpayers have to put it back in. If they're draining it faster than they should, it just means more taxes. So that's one.
So do you say increase controls on that, increase tests to make sure that a person is truly disabled? How do we go about making sure that that's the case?
You'll have to wait until you see our bill.
Okay.
All right, but it's to make sure that those people who deserve it, who really are hurt and can't work, that we take care of them. They deserve that from us.
Yep.
But those that are gaming the system, abusing it, that they don't get it.
Okay, so that's one tool.
That's one. giving our negotiating training to school committee members, town council members, whenever they go in to negotiate a contract. They've never done it before, but their union counterparts have.
Yes.
And the union counterparts have had the training.
Okay.
And they have great, great support behind them. I'd like to offer training to anybody at the municipal level who wants to take it, so that they can be good negotiators too for the state taxpayers. There is something called joint and several liability, and this is just like a really esoteric thing.
Well, it's down in the weeds, but if this
it's
is
down
what
in
you're
the weeds,
proposing.
but this is a tool. People are always suing the cities,
Mm-hmm.
whether the city is at fault or not.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, well, that's legal fees, right? And a lot of times, just because they're nuisance suits, the city will settle for them rather than go to court
Mm-hmm.
and just drive up the cost. So I think it's, at this point, 38 states have already done some reform around joint and several liability. I think we should join them, because it hurts municipalities. If they're settling on nuisance suits rather than going to court, if they're spending a lot of money on lawyers when they have done nothing wrong, but just because they're the city, they're the ones with the deep pockets,
Yes.
right? We need to take that monkey off their back. That keeps our taxes lower. I'm trying to think now what other
Other
ones.
tools in the toolbox. I'm assuming you have those numbers perhaps at your disposal of how much cities and towns are spending on those legal fees, and something we can
do.
Look forward to discussing and divulging moving forward, so folks actually can learn a little bit more about that. So
it's those kinds of tools, and I wasn't prepared, so I apologize. But
those are just some of them.
Those are
and
some
we'll
of
talk
them.
more.
Exactly. It's just little pieces, and you just over the years, like the Carullo Act, where the school committee can sue the town council. Well, in West Warwick, that cost us well over $1 million, and that was just money that went to lawyers and didn't do anything for school children.
So you think you might have some difficulties against the Bar Association and sort of a legal industrial complex?
So you get it. So absolutely, the trial lawyers are not going to want the reform around joint and several liability. But you've got to convince them that if we can help cities and towns, and if we can help all of Rhode Island, there actually will be more legal work for them, not less.
Mm.
They don't have to worry about chasing the slip and fall, right?
Okay.
They can be doing business law, corporate law, contract law. That's what I would prefer that they do. That shows that our economy is growing and producing. Not slip it, I'm not going to call them I'm just ambulance chasers, but those nuisance suits aren't where they should be, what they should be holding on to. Because if we can really repair the foundation of cities and towns and of our state, our economic, then there's going to be more than enough work for them.
That was just checking in on the time here. We had Siri asking, what are nuisance suits? So some of the tools, and when will you be putting forth this package? When can we expect to hear more about this?
Well, the deadline is Tuesday, so I guess for me it's going to be Tuesday. I'm going to put it in, and
a
then
big release that we'll put on. We'll see on Go Local, so you can learn more about that when that package comes out. Obviously, we're going to be having you on more to talk about things up at the State House. So appreciate your coming on today.
Well,
welcome to the new studio.
This is wonderful.
Well, as folks are watching it live, but we will be segmenting it as we've done with previous ones, and then you can share it and spread it on Facebook and YouTube Live, any way of social media. It's the new way that we're delivering news.
And you need to do it too.
And you need to tune in. So I appreciate your viewers again here at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. House Minority Leader Patricia Morgan, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.